every day is different. One day you're reporting about a crime, the next a feature story about someone going above and beyond, doing great things in the community. Both deserve to be treated with dignity. When I'm gathering details about a crime or a murder, there's an ebb and flow of emotions. When I first got into journalism, a family friend sat me down and said, "Don't forget where you came from." So yes, when I'm covering a murder or a crime, my emotions have to be anchored. I have to gather the facts, get the story, then report it on air. But I also have to tap into my heart and have empathy. I can't just go up to a murder victim's family like, "So, your son died. He was 20 years old, pronounced dead at 2:15 in the morning. Someone randomly decided to wreak havoc on him. I'm so sorry, ma'am, for your loss." No. No, I won't do that. That is not the code that I live by. Not forgetting my roots means remembering that I know parents who've lost their kids before. Some due to violence, some because of a car accident, others due to an illness. And to see the anguish on their faces and the strength they try to muster together, and don't dare be smug when talking to a family. But I also understand I have a job to do. So if a family wants to talk, thank you. If not, I understand. One of the hardest stories I ever had to report on was the death of a little boy. Abdi Fateh Muhammad was 10 years old. His stepfather bound him and beat him 70 times with a rolling pin. During the courtroom proceedings, we saw a video of the crime scene. And this little boy's lifeless body. I can still envision it to this day. It hurt my heart to know that people could be so cruel. But I had to push in my emotions because people wanted to know what happened in court. Would there be justice for Abdi? So in that moment, my emotions didn't matter. I had to report. His stepdad was convicted. So this is what I mean when I talk about the ebb and flow of emotions. So whether you're reporting on a crime, natural disaster, or an extraordinary act of kindness, they all deserve to be treated with dignity. To me, that's the human element of news. Yes, you have to get the facts, but tell me about the people. When I do an interview with a family who's gone through something traumatic, I feel them out. I tell the story they have to say because each family handles trauma differently. For example, I did a story about Annette Adamczak and her family. She lost 2 of her children, and I did a story about their benefit, and I couldn't just say, 2 of the Adamczak children died. They're having a benefit. That doesn't even sound right. I mean, I had to let people know what they had gone through. Think about the time you lost someone you really cared about. It was tough, right? Now think about losing 2 of the people you love most in this world. That's what Annette's family went through. In 2009, Emily suddenly collapsed during soccer practice. She had a heart condition, and her mother thought this was just going to be another episode. But it wasn't. By the time the ambulance arrived, Annette had her daughter in her arms, and she just knew. She was gone. Emily was 14 years old. Afterwards, Annette funneled her pain into purpose. She taught hundreds of kids CPR, and her daughter Shelby would help out. Then 10 months ago, Shelby died in a car accident. Annette and her family were distraught. So when I told her story, I wanted people to know what she had gone through. But I also wanted people to know about her strength and her will to make this world a better place for those who are still here. So this is another aspect of the ebb and flow of emotions. One day you have to bottle them up, the next you have to open your heart in order to empathize with the person in front of you. And then, sometimes you come across people and stories you'll never forget. I met Sincere in Fox 11 months ago, and I have not stopped raving about her ever since. She's a survivor. Last year, as she was on her way to pick up her friend from the airport, a car rear-ended her. It sandwiched her between it and a concrete barrier. As a result, her head was partially separated from her neck. The wreck was so bad, she was listed as Jane Doe in the hospital. In order to call her family, doctors put up numbers on the wall. 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. She had to blink in order to give them her mother's number. Even though she couldn't walk or talk, she still had a fiery determination to heal. I met Sincere in a few months after her accident, and by that time, she was able to move her upper torso, her arms, and her hands. And she told me this was just the beginning, that she was going to get stronger each and every day, and that this was just part of her testimony that God was going to work it out. Then as I was getting ready to leave to write my story, she stopped me. She said, "Brittni, if you're having a bad day, call me." I was blown away. Here's this woman who could sit here and be upset about what life has dealt her, but instead she drew strength from it. I had so much to say about this amazing woman, but I knew I had to reel in my excitement, gather my facts, and tell her story in the allotted time. But can I tell you, today, she can get herself in and out of a wheelchair. She's getting ready to drive soon, and she's finishing a book. I love stories about survivors like Annette and Sincere, because despite all the odds, despite the ups and downs of life, they keep going. Maya Angelou once said, "We may encounter defeats, but we must not be defeated. We may even encounter the defeat so we can know who we are." So yes, when it comes to journalism, we have to ask the tough questions. We have to get the facts. But in the midst of it all, it's important that the people don't get lost in the copy.